Neurological Disorders, Lesson 3.1. Why do we all experience different levels of pain? The goals of this lesson are to engage students with the idea that our perceptions, especially those of pain, are influenced by many factors, and to introduce the idea that neuronal connections can influence each other and our perceptions. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to describe how our bodies are able to modulate our perceptions of pain and give examples of how expectations and mood modulate the pain pathway. We'll achieve these goals through a discussion of pain ratings and watching and discussing videos. To prepare for this lesson, you'll need to review the key scientific concepts that are presented in it. They include an overview of the phenomenon of pain, its sensation and perception, including defining and measuring pain, what's meant by pain threshold and pain tolerance, and how pain modifiers work, including gender, hair color, mood, and expectations. You can review the scientific content in the background reading provided to you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in the lesson. The teacher manual or lesson plan provides a minute-by-minute explanation of lesson structure, including instructions on how to manage the discussion and activity. And the student workbook provides additional explanation for students. You'll need to be sure to print the Do Now worksheet and sleep journal for your students. You'll also need to double-check that the embedded videos on PowerPoint slides 5, 9, and 11 will play on your classroom computer. If you do have problems playing the videos within the PowerPoint slides, you can download them from the ND Multimedia Backup. A link to this backup is provided on the webpage for Lesson 3.1. The key point of Lessons Do Now is to engage students with the phenomenon of pain perception. It is the example we'll use throughout Unit 3 to discuss synaptic transmission. We'll get to this key point by reflecting and assigning pain ratings. In the Do Now, students write about their most physically painful experience, as well as give a list of experience of pain rating from 1 to 10, 10 being extremely painful and 1 being not painful at all. We'll discuss this Do Now within the lesson's discussion. The key points of the lesson discussion are first to introduce the phenomenon of pain perception, which includes a review of sensation, which is the immediate basic experience generated when stimuli activate our sensory systems, and perception, which is the interpretation of those sensations. And second, to focus on the fact that perception of pain is unique to each individual and experience. We'll get to these key points with a discussion of the pain ratings that students completed in the Do Now. You'll use slide 4 to discuss the students' pain ratings from the Do Now. Interestingly, students have a wide range of pain ratings for the exact same experience. For example, some students will rate getting a tattoo as a 10, whereas others will rate it as a 1. Not always, but often, the students that want or have tattoos rate the experience as less painful than those that don't want and don't have tattoos. But those same students with low ratings for getting a tattoo might rate getting a shot as very painful. One of the key questions to ask your students here is, what factors do you consider when assigning your pain ratings? As this question gets to the idea of factors that can modify our perception of pain. The key points of the activity are to show students how scientists go about defining and measuring pain, which is much more complicated than any of the other senses because we each experience it differently. To define and measure pain, we need to define and measure pain threshold and pain tolerance. Additionally, we'll introduce pain modifiers, including gender, hair color, mood, and expectations here. We'll get to these key points by watching and discussing videos. The activity begins with the class watching a video about pushing our bodies past their limits. The video on slide 5 gets students thinking about the fact that our perceptions of pain vary widely depending on the context of experience, and introduces the terms pain threshold and pain tolerance. After the video, you'll ask the students what's the difference between these two terms and use slide 6 to define them. Then you'll ask the students, how could you test someone's pain threshold or pain tolerance? Students usually come up with a wide variety of demonic ideas. After allowing some brainstorming, focus the class on using heat with slide number 7. You'll then ask the class, could swearing modulate pain perception? How would you test this? After a brief discussion, you'll watch the video embedded on PowerPoint slide number 9, which shows just this experience, testing someone's pain tolerance with and without swearing to see if swearing modulates pain perception. And don't worry, the swears are bleeped out in this video. Swearing does increase pain tolerance, which could be why we do it. Then we'll repeat this discussion, only this time asking the class whether they think smells could modulate pain perception, and how could they test it. The video embedded on slide number 11 shows exactly this experiment. The activity ends with a brief overview of other factors that have been shown to modulate pain perception, including sex, hair color, and laughter. The key points of the wrap-up are to allow students to apply their understanding of the phenomenon of pain perception, and specifically use their knowledge of pain modifiers, which again include gender, hair color, mood, and expectations. We'll get to these key points by providing suggestions for a friend. In the wrap-up, we'll help our friend Laura, who just had her wisdom tooth removed and is in a lot of pain. We'll ask students to provide suggestions for what Laura can do to minimize her pain post-surgery. The key point of the homework is that we can use data about our behaviors to determine how our brains are working. We'll get to this key point by collecting data on our sleep patterns. For homework, students will complete a sleep journal, recording their bedtime and wake time, caffeine intake, and sleepiness scale score for 1 week. We'll use this data next week in Unit 4 to analyze our sleep-wake cycles and determine if we're getting enough quality sleep. Because we need a week's worth of data to do accurate calculations, it's important to give this assignment now. Students often ask for more details about pain perception and why we each experience pain differently. You can find more in the teacher primer, teacher manual, and student workbook. One of the most common questions teachers get is, why don't we experience as much pain when our adrenaline levels are high, like after an accident or during a sporting event? The answer here links back to the key of the day. It's all about perception, which is the interpretation of our sensations, and that will differ based on experience. Also, adrenaline seems to act on pain processing regions in the brain, so it's yet another factor that can modulate our perception of pain. Another question teachers commonly get is, do men and women really experience different levels of pain? And again, it's back to perception, which is the interpretation of sensations, and that will differ between people. So averages for males and females are just that, averages, and don't represent every male and every female, because each of us is unique and we will each have a unique perception of pain. Another fun addition here is to show videos of men undergoing simulated childbirth, which are available on YouTube. A warning though, the swears aren't always bleeped out of these, so you'll have to double check and choose one that's appropriate for your class. At the end of this lesson, students should appreciate that our perceptions of pain are a unique phenomenon that many factors will influence, including gender, hair color, mood, and expectations, and they do this through their neuronal connections. This lesson builds on students' understanding of the difference between sensation and perception that we first introduced in Lesson 1.4, the Sensation and Perception Station Lab. This lesson also provides the foundation for future discussions on synaptic transmission that use pain as an example case to ground an otherwise complex and abstract process. And don't forget, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback to let us know, you can contact any of the CTSE team members and we'd be more than happy to help you.